guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is the 28th of July, 2019. So I want to do something a little bit fun just because, you know, YouTube does a good job of keeping us from getting new people to come and join us. So Adeline has sent, I'm gonna say this wrong. Are you Sunaz 79 sent him here, him or she, or he or she person here, and said, you two are being blasted out of my Bluetooth speaker, LOL, everyone in my house is looking at me like I'm silly. Well, I would like to talk to everyone in your house and tell them that they are going to be so glad that you are blasting us out of their Bluetooth speaker, because you cannot get content like this anywhere else on the internet but here at Resistance Chicks. So we welcome you, my friend, and hope that you stick around.
Amen. All right. Speaking of sticking around, mate, Australia joins US in seeking post-Brexit UK trade deal within weeks.
Okay, so are you really going to do the Australian accent again?
I don't know.
No.
Sooner or later is the mantra for Australia as it seeks to trade with the UK in post-Brexit world. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, saying he wants a deal done within weeks of Britain exiting EU trade restrictions. Morrison told the Australian newspaper. He called new Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Wednesday to congratulate him and wish him every success for the big challenges he now faces ahead. He added, UK and Australia have the best of relationships, and I have no doubt that Boris and I will be able to take this to a new level in post-Brexit era. So, in case you didn't know, the UK, Australia is it was a colony, now it's not, it's its own country. Sent all the prisoners there.
Yep.
So all the crazy wild people ended up, but a lot of them were, prisoners of, conscience and thought. So a lot of good people ended up.
Maia says, Michelle, stop cringing and let Leah do her accent.
Haha, that's really funny. That's really funny.
You can do it.
We already put in place a trade working group between Australia and the UK to explore possibilities, the Prime Minister said. And that will put us in a position where, if the UK wanted to get a deal done in a period of months, maybe even weeks, well, we would be willing to move as swiftly as they were able to do. Australian farmers would be among the biggest winners from the deal, he says.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes. All right.
It was a good effort.
A for effort. La la la. All right. So you guys want to see? He had a big long speech, an hour long.
Was it an hour long?
It's 58 minutes. I think so.
Not in front of number 10. Was it? This is a different one.
Okay, well, a couple of my videos are really long, so I'm going to play snippets of what he and highlights of what he said and what he's promising.
Yes.
So
one of those things, and I don't know if your highlights get to this, so before I forget,
no,
I was greatly encouraged by the 20,000 cops, police officers in England, Great Britain, United Kingdom.
So here, actually, I'm going to play this. This is a little clip on.
Again.
If push came to shove, surely that's where it's going. Brexit Party MPs on a potential Boris-Nigel pact. If Boris commits to a world WTO Brexit, they could win a huge majority.
What does this mean for the Brexit Party? Because some of our more fierce critics, shall we say, say, well, that's it. You're over and done with. Now, if Boris gets us out, what's the point of the Brexit Party? Or could there be some sort of pact with the Brexit Party? It's been talked about a lot, a Boris-Nigel pact. There's denials on both sides, but if push came to shove, surely that's where it's going.
I would have thought so. There are so many marginal seats in Great Britain. We've done a lot of work and identified, multiple seats where the margin of error, if we step in, then it could easily come our way. We know that the seats are either, marginal Labour or Conservative. Labour is, if you like, also not being featured in the calculus. We're focused entirely on the Conservatives, but in many Labour areas, we have just as good a chance as we do in Conservative areas, in my opinion.
And what does this mean for
All right, so I want you guys to still be excited about the Brexit Party. So before
What's
I get
wrong
on
with entering a third competitive party into the mix? Why does it have to be two parties?
Well, you'd have to have a pact, and I think that when you're running people, you'd have to just almost like run one.
Mm-hmm. Because if they can, if the Tories and the Brexit Party can form a coalition, they'd be unstoppable.
They would be. They would be. So here is watch Boris, and even when I was reading an article, Rees-Mogg and Boris, not to be outdone by one another, use their large vocabulary to colloquially insult their opponents. And so here's witty Boris Johnson here. And you know what's funny is you guys sent me links on Rees-Mogg on the floor and how funny he was.
It's just Mogg, there's no S.
Okay, well, I like Moggs better. Anyways, I like him with the S, so there you go. Mr. Kansas has 4 names, so it's whatever I feel like calling him.
Okay.
All right, so Rees-Mogg's Mogg. He, anyways, I don't get a lot of their humor, but it's funny to watch them laugh, so whatever. They thought it was funny.
It's about trust and who can you trust to run? How can I? And he asks about Iran, Mr. Speaker. A gentleman, right honourable gentleman who has been paid by Press TV of Iran, who repeatedly sides with the mullahs of Tehran rather than our friends in the United States over what is happening in the Persian Gulf. How incredible that we should even think of entrusting that gentleman with the stewardship of this country's security. But worse than that, by far, Mr. Speaker, this is a right honourable gentleman who is set on an economic policy together with the shadow chancellor who was sacked by Ken Livingstone for being too left-wing. Sacked for fabricating a budget.
So I want you guys to recognize something, that under Theresa May, the mood in the House was very dark and angry. And with Boris, everybody, even on the left, is just happy to have him up there because it's like, seriously, there is no right-wing party in Great Britain. They're all socialists.
True.
So it's like, to what degree or what you're going to spend your money on? I mean, Boris Johnson is already, promising this and promising that. Money-wise.
I know.
And so, I mean, I was even listening to, like, the list. Rees-Mogg somebody was reading out the list to Rees-Mogg, and, like, that sounds like somebody's running for office with all the goodies that you're offering. And he's like, aren't you, like, a kind of a fiscal conservative? He goes, I am, but he kind of walked it back, like, hey, we got to do this to win and to keep everybody with us. So anyways, it's I think that's why the mood is lightened there, because they don't have the stark differences in opinion. It's more on just like, hey, I like blue, hey, I like green.
Boris is gonna have no trouble getting a no-deal Brexit through this House. They keep asking him, like, are you gonna be able to get a no-deal Brexit through? Yeah, easy. Because, like you said, when it really boils down to it, I think that the left just didn't want Theresa May's deal because it was worse than any possible outcome ever.
Yeah.
He forged a budget, sacked for forging a budget. He would raise taxes on inheritance, Mr. Speaker. He would raise taxes on pensions. I am answering. I'm telling you, Mr.
Order. Mr. Lavery, you're another overexcitable denizen of the House. Calm yourself. It would be therapeutic for you to do so. There's far too much noise on both sides of the House, and I fear that the noise on the front bench is proving contagious, and I note certain backbenchers who are becoming overexcitable, and they must restrain themselves. And I know the Prime Minister will, of course, be both passionate and restrained. The Prime Minister.
But it is only with an effort that I can master my feelings here, Mr. Speaker, because the right honourable gentleman will not only put up taxes on inheritance and pensions and corporations, he would put up taxes. He would put up taxes on income to 50p and above. He would put up taxes on income. There he is, the forger of the budget of 1984, Mr. Speaker. He would put up, give him a chance, he would put up taxes not just on homes but on gardens, Mr. Speaker. And he speaks about trust in our democracy. He speaks about trust in our democracy, Mr. Speaker. And I have to say, a most extraordinary thing has just happened today. Did anybody notice what happened today? Did anybody notice the terrible metamorphosis that took place, like the final scene of Invasion of the Body Snatchers? At last, this long-standing Eurosceptic, the right honourable gentleman, has been captured. He has been jugulated. He has been reprogrammed by his honourable friends. He has been turned now into a Remainer. He has turned Labour into the party in all the flip-flops he has performed in his tergiversating career. That is the one for which I think he will pay the highest price.
Talking about Jeremy Corbyn because he was for
this party. This party, this government that is clearly on the side of democracy in this country. It is this party that is on the side of the people who voted so overwhelmingly in 2016. It is this party that will deliver the mandate that they gave to this Parliament, and which, by the way, this Parliament promised time and time and time again to deliver. And indeed, the Right Honourable Gentleman and all his colleagues promised to deliver it. And the reality now is that we are the party of the people. We are the party. We are the party of the many. We are the party of the many, and they are the party of the few. We will take this country forwards. They, Mr. Speaker, will take it backwards.
Well said,
so
Boris.
It is a passionate speech, by the way.
It was. So, David Baggett and Britt Bozza say that the garden tax is true, that Corbyn really does want to impose that. Worth a Look says Boris is spot on there. Corbyn has sold his soul and caved into his Remain MPs.
All right. Diane Abbott says that recruiting 10,000 new police officers would cost £300,000 compared to Boris's vow to recruit 20,000 people. A serious prime minister who means business versus the far left clown who doesn't know a clue of what she's talking about.
So how much would 10,000 police officers cost?
Well, if we recruit the 10,000 police men and women over a 4-year period, we believe it'll be about £300,000.
£300,000 for 10,000 police officers? What are you paying them?
No, I mean, sorry.
How much will they cost?
They will cost. It will cost about.
So how much would?
So like, I think that basic
that's
math
difficult for me to.
So let's pretend that each police officer is paid £50,000. Okay. You're going to get 6.
Right.
You're going to get 6 for £300,000. So either that or they're volunteers.
Yeah.
We get, volunteers, I think.
Right.
So let's see. I was stopped in the street by a random person who said, for the first time, I think we've got a PM who is actually going to take us out of the EU. Peter Bone. Let's see here.
What do you make of Boris Johnson's start?
Brilliant. As I said in the Commons last night, for the first time in ages, I'm sleeping better at night, like millions of others now that we've got Boris Johnson in charge.
Even the people who voted
road
Remain
running
are just
and
like,
we're going to come out of the EU on 31st of October. I was stopped in the street as I came in by some random person who just said, you know what, for the first time, I think we've got a Prime Minister who's actually going to take us out of the EU. And that's the feeling, I think, in the country at the moment. There's a lot of optimism and support for the Prime Minister.
There is a lot of optimism. Let's see. Herr Juncker in the bunker would say there's going to be no change, wouldn't he? He says Marc Francois tearing into the dark May days. For the EU for 3 years have been rolling us over because we never argue back.
You're not going to have anything, do you?
Well, forgive me, Herr Juncker in the bunker would say that, wouldn't he? Look, in Parliament...
He would say, Boris Johnson, the dude, would say that too.
Well, the EU for 3 years have been rolling us over because we never really argued back. We had a chief negotiator, Ollie Robbins, who was...
So I don't know who it was, but I think it was Barnier who said that Theresa May never even said the words no deal to threaten even. It was like it was never on the table, even though she said it was no deal was better than a bad deal. She never, she just came in like as a little kitten, like, hey, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Chiefly negotiating for them. We didn't stand up for ourselves. What is different is that you now have a Prime Minister who believes in leaving, hang on, who didn't vote Remain, and who is prepared to stand up robustly for the interests of the United Kingdom. That is a sea change from what the EU were used to.
But you don't have a parliament that believes in leaving with a no deal. You also know the maths. You know you've got a by-election next Thursday. The possibility, the distinct possibility, won't get as far as the 31st of October. And actually, it's not such a bad thing for Boris Johnson to have an election. And you wouldn't be against an election, would you?
Well, look, for a while I was the operations officer of the Whip's office, so I know a little bit about the maths. And what's interesting in Parliament is that party positions are hardening. So Boris has been absolutely clear, we leave with no deal.
You heard Dominic Grieve?
Well, OK, but he's not the Prime Minister. Now, we've now got Jeremy Corbyn, who said today very clearly, Labour, if there was a second referendum, would vote for Remain. They're now a Remain party. Jo Swinson, the new leader of the Liberal Democrats, said incredibly the other day that she wants a second referendum, but even if we had one and we voted to leave, she wouldn't accept it. Ludicrous position. Neither Liberal nor Democrat. So, well, when you look at the maths, what you'd need to stop it is an act of Parliament. Wait a minute. The so-called Cooper Bowles-Letwin went through by one vote, but that's now expired. That was before the European elections. I believe the maths in Parliament are far more complex than many people appreciate. And there's also many Labour MPs, hang on, who never accept a Remain position. So I actually think they can't get what they want in Parliament, and I don't think they could get through a bill to stop a WTO exit.
Wow, and so that is really interesting breakdown there.
So on Facebook Live, Teresa says...
We're Facebook Live, by the way. Hi!
We haven't been Facebook Live for weeks. 20,000 is not enough for the duty of being a police officer without a gun for self-defense. That is a misnomer in the UK. Some of the police officers do actually carry weapons, but I still agree with you. It's also not enough to be dealing with a public that has run rampant because they aren't allowed to defend themselves. We've got acid attacks, we've got rapes, we've got, knife attacks. I mean, London is just a mess.
This goes into my... Remember, Boris Johnson was mayor of London. He had a handle on it, and now it's run amok. And a lot of people like to say, why, yeah, but the U.S. still has more shootings, or yeah, but this, and the same thing with Sweden. Yeah, but the U.S., blah, blah, blah. And it just dawned on me today. How about we go at a baseline, okay? The United States homicide rates and murder rates are either, steady or declining. So we have to look at the rates. I mean, we were born out of the wild, wild west. We do have guns. We do have the Second Amendment. And so with that, you do have a little bit, different dynamic there, but you also have a dynamic in our country of gang violence, which drives up those numbers extremely high. Exactly. And the idea is not to take law-abiding citizens to take their weapons away, because guns are never going to go away. It's to make sure that law-abiding citizens are armed. And in my opinion, and I think that everybody would agree, we've got to find a way to deal with the gang violence, and that for us goes back to single parenthood and the austerity measures where you are giving so much money to single moms and not to marry.
You're incentivizing single parents.
I talk to, and this goes across the board, it's the same for the UK as it is here and around the world. A friend of mine, I know a young woman who is with somebody, they got pregnant, they were living together, they had the baby. They are not getting married because, for the simple reason that they will lose the medical benefits if they're married. Now, we have to find a way, because if these people are married, most likely they're going to come off those benefits earlier anyways. And what you had in the African American community, and the same thing that happens, you get gangs when you don't have moms and dads.
Exactly.
That's when you get gangs. And so the knife crime happening, when you have all these young migrants coming in, they're not with moms and they're not with dads. You almost need to have families, but the UK can't be a family. So you have these crazy kids running around knifing people because honestly, they don't have a mom and dad, and the gang becomes their parents. And so this little snippet here from BOJO, Boris is prioritizing law and order. 20,000 new bubbies are just the beginning. Priti Patel heading the new police oversight board, which I think is great. I know a lot of people that, oh, what does Priti Patel know? I don't know. I know very little about her. From what I've heard her speak, she's really great. I love her. ramping up the stop and search and longer sentences. So let's hear BOJO. Does he have the mojo?
National Policing Board, chaired by our dynamic
to tell the criminals no go.
Secretary will hold the police to account for meeting this target. We will also give the police greater ability to use stop and search in order to drive a reduction in the violent crime that plagues our communities. But there's no point in arresting, charging and convicting criminals if we do not give them the sentences they deserve. In fact, the number of offenders with more than 50 previous convictions who were convicted but spared jail rose from 1,299 in 2007 to 3,196 in 2018.
More than double.
Dude, if you have like one person who's had over 50 criminal offenses, like they're deported, they're in jail for life. Like, you know, you get to a certain number, then like should like add up. Like, you can't be a professional like thief. You know what I mean? And the fact that they're actually convicted, which is huge. The fact that you have 50 criminal convictions is huge because you guys only solve like 6% of all crime.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need to restore the public's faith in our criminal justice system by ensuring that people who repeatedly commit crimes are punished properly. And that means that those guilty of the most serious violent and sexual offences are required to serve a custodial sentence that reflects the severity of their offence.
Oh my gosh. And this is what we call like the truth movement, like the sane movement. Hello? All right. So here's another one where he's talking about we will see to it that every part of this country will see the benefits of potentially mass opportunity.
Services and infrastructure that will benefit their areas and drive local growth. And in doing so, we will see to it that every part of this country sees the benefits of the potentially massive opportunity that will come from Brexit. And I think over the last 3 years, we've tended to treat Brexit like some impending adverse weather event. But I campaigned to leave the EU because I believe it's a chance to change the direction of the UK and make us the best country in the world to live. And thank you. And we should remind ourselves that leaving the EU is a massive economic opportunity to do things we've not been allowed to do for decades, to rid ourselves of some bureaucratic red tape, to create jobs, to untangle the creativity and innovation for which Britain is famous. And of course, we don't need to wait now to start preparing to seize the benefits of that project. So we'll begin right away to create the free ports that will generate thousands of highly skilled jobs and revitalise some of the poorest parts of our country. We'll begin right away on working to change the tax rules to provide extra incentives to invest in capital and research. We will double down on our investment in R&D. We will accelerate the talks on those new free trade deals and prepare an economic package to boost British business and lengthen this country's lead as the #1 destination in Europe for overseas investment. And at the same time, we will unite and level up across our country, as I say, with infrastructure, with better education, and with technology. And in so doing, we will make our whole nation not just an all right, okay kind of place, better than average place to live, but I don't think it sounds hyperbolical to say this, but the greatest place on earth.
So, I want to pull out some things here.
Make Britain great again.
Worth a look has, and forgive me for your comments are gone, so I'm just going to paraphrase, but I think I can. He's pretty much saying, listen, yes, Boris has come out with a good start, but we need to still be cautiously optimistic. Like, just be cautious because Boris is still establishment. And so you need to be cautious with that. So I think that that's the stance that we're going to take, is the same thing that Worth a Look is putting here in the chat. With that, let me offer this other side to that. Like you said, I think he can't say mega. Okay, he can't say make Britain great again. Okay, so so what he has to do is he's latched onto this, making Britain the greatest country in the world.
So it is mega.
It is mega, but it's his way of saying it. But what were we talking about a little bit earlier? And that is kind of when greatness is thrust upon you, or you have it, you we've seen this here with our representatives, like Mitch McConnell and some of those guys, where they, when given license to do the rebellious thing against,
feels good.
It does feel good. And you start, and I think that that's really been an empowering thing for Trump.
Yeah.
And from the time he decided to campaign to become president up through now, is he's found this like high in going against the establishment. And I think that it's not too early to say that, at least as of right now, Boris is getting a sense of that. And so I think that the things that he's saying and that sound really good, I think as of right now, I don't think he's quite hit the wall that he will hit. President Trump hit it. And we'll see what happens when he hits the wall of the powers that be coming against these grandiose ideas that he wants to have, getting back, putting Britain, you know, independent again and fighting crime and maybe standing up against the really guys. God bless.
I was cold, all alone. No place for home every day. So afraid, but you call my name.